You think poor families from 1930 to 1979 wasted food because they didn't know better. Think again. Between 1932 and 1978, poor families practiced food-saving engineering, tested, refined, and executed in kitchens where women saved bacon grease in Maxwell House coffee cans,
Bacon sizzling, bread toasting. B minus 10 seconds now.
froze chicken bones in bread bags, and stretched 1 pound of hamburger across 3 meals because stretching wasn't optional. Your grandmother saved vegetable scraps for soup stock every single day in 1955. Carrot peels in the Tupperware bowl, celery tops in the icebox. Family survival balanced on whether she wasted nothing or you went hungry when payday was Friday and today was Wednesday. Your grandmother stretched hamburger with breadcrumbs every Monday in 1968. 1 pound ground beef she paid 0.89 for at the A&P. Mixed with 2 cups dried breadcrumbs she made from Saturday's stale white bread, combined with 1 egg and 1/4 cup milk in the yellow Tupperware bowl, making the 1 pound feed 8 people instead of 4 in meatloaf she baked in the Pyrex loaf pan. The hamburger breadcrumb mixture stretched 100%, the meatloaf holding together perfectly, feeding 8 for 1.12 total, equivalent to $10 today, or $1.25 per person instead of $2.50. It proved you could double meat portions, that you knew stretching when stretching meant adding equal parts breadcrumbs to hamburger, when Monday meant making 1 pound serve 8 because serving 4 meant 4 people went without. Your grandmother saved bacon grease in a Maxwell House coffee can every morning in 1955. Bacon fat poured hot from the cast-iron skillet into the empty coffee can she kept on the stovetop next to the salt and pepper, used for frying eggs, greasing pans, and making biscuits because butter cost 0.45 per pound, and bacon grease was free if you saved it instead of pouring it down the drain like rich people did. The bacon grease saved 0.45 per week minimum, the coffee can lasting 2 weeks of daily cooking, saving $11.70 per year, equivalent to $130 today. It proved you could eliminate butter expenses, that you knew fat management when management meant capturing every drop of cooking grease, when morning bacon meant afternoon biscuit-making fat, when poverty engineering meant understanding that throwing away bacon grease was throwing away money in liquid form. Your grandmother saved vegetable scraps for soup stock every single day in 1962, carrot peels, celery tops, onion skins, potato peelings, all stored in a Tupperware container in the Frigidaire, accumulated for 1 week, then boiled in the large stock pot with water for 2 hours, strained and frozen in milk cartons, making free soup base instead of buying Campbell's beef broth for 0.23 per can. The vegetable scrap stock saved $0.92 per month, 4 cans, saving $11.04 per year, equivalent to $110 today. It proved you could make stock from garbage, that you knew waste elimination when elimination meant saving every vegetable scrap other people threw away, when daily cooking meant daily scrap collection, when poverty engineering meant understanding vegetables had 2 values, the part you ate and the part you boiled for free stock that made next week's soup cost nothing. Your grandmother made stale bread into breadcrumbs every Saturday in 1970. Week-old white bread from the bread box she dried in the oven at 200 degrees for 30 minutes, crushed with the rolling pin on the cutting board, stored in a ball jar in the cupboard, eliminating the 0.89 she would have spent on Progresso breadcrumbs from the store. The homemade breadcrumbs saved $3.56 per month, 4 containers, saving $42.72 per year, equivalent to $290 today. It proved you could eliminate breadcrumb expenses entirely, that you knew bread life cycle when life cycle meant fresh Monday, Your grandmother saved chicken bones for broth after every chicken dinner in 1958. Sunday's roast chicken carcass she stored in a bread bag in the freezer, accumulated 3 carcasses, boiled together in the large stock pot with water, celery, and onion for 4 hours, making 12 cups of chicken broth instead of buying 12 cans, Swanson broth at 0.19 each. The chicken bone broth saved $2.28 per batch, 12 cans, making broth every 6 weeks, saving $19.76 per year, equivalent to $210 today. Your grandmother saved potato water for bread making every time she boiled potatoes in 1965. The starchy water drained from boiled potatoes into a ball jar she cooled and refrigerated, used instead of plain water in her bread recipe because potato water made bread rise higher and stay fresh longer, eliminating the need for dough conditioner from the store. The potato water bread technique improved bread texture for free, the starch acting as natural dough enhancer, making loaves that stayed soft 3 days instead of 1 day. It proved you could improve bread quality with wastewater, that you knew starch chemistry when chemistry meant potato water made better bread than tap water, when Thursday's mashed potatoes meant Friday's bread-making water, when poverty engineering meant understanding every cooking liquid had secondary value beyond the primary food. Potato water for bread disappeared when instant yeast and dough conditioners made potato water unnecessary, when potato water became something people ask, "What's potato water?" about. The hack that once proved liquid economics became forgotten technique, and women who saved potato water in ball jars for 30 years stayed silent about the real reason, pretending they never knew potato water was free dough conditioner, when free dough conditioner made the difference between bread that lasted and bread that went stale by Tuesday. Your grandmother made soured milk into buttermilk every time milk went sour in 1972, milk that passed the sniff test but tasted off. She mixed with 1 tablespoon vinegar per cup, let sit for 10 minutes, used in biscuits, pancakes, and cornbread instead of throwing away and buying real buttermilk for 0.67 per quart from the dairy case. The soured milk buttermilk saved 0.67 per week minimum, saving $34.84 per year, equivalent to $230 today. It proved you could salvage soured milk, that you knew acid chemistry when chemistry meant adding vinegar made sour milk into buttermilk, when Thursday's off milk meant Friday's biscuits, when poverty engineering meant understanding milk had value until it actually spoiled, not just until it tasted slightly sour, when sour wasn't garbage but raw material for buttermilk baking. Soured milk buttermilk disappeared when expiration dates became gospel and soured milk became automatic garbage, when best buy dates made people throw away perfectly usable milk. The hack that once proved milk salvage became something food safety experts warn against, and women who used soured milk for 50 years stayed silent about the vinegar trick, pretending they always bought buttermilk when buttermilk cost 0.67 and soured milk plus vinegar was free. Your grandmother bought day-old bread for half price every Saturday in 1960. Week-old white bread the bakery sold for 0.10 instead of 0.23 per loaf. Bought 6 loaves at once, froze 5 in bread bags, saved 0.78 per week or $40.56 per year compared to buying fresh bread, equivalent to $410 today. The day-old bread saved 57% on bread expenses, the frozen loaves lasting 6 weeks in the freezer, thawing perfectly for sandwiches. It proved you could buy strategically, that you knew bakery economics when economics meant day-old bread was chemically identical to fresh bread, but half the price. When Saturday meant bakery shopping day, when poverty engineering meant understanding bread didn't spoil after 24 hours, stores just charged less because people believed it did. Day-old bread buying disappeared when bakery outlets closed and grocery stores stopped selling day-old bread at discount when fresh became mandatory instead of optional. The hack that once proved timing, economics, became unavailable strategy, and women who bought day-old bread every Saturday for 20 years stayed silent about the bakery routine, pretending they never bought day-old when day-old was identical to fresh, but half the cost because of arbitrary timing. Your grandmother froze meat bones for stock after every roast in 1967. Beef bones from pot roast, pork bones from pork chops, ham bones from baked ham, all saved in bread bags in the freezer, accumulated until she had 10 pounds, roasted at 400 degrees for 1 hour, then boiled in the stock pot for 8 hours, making brown stock instead of buying beef base for 1.23 per jar. The meat bone stock saved 1.23 per batch, making stock every 3 months, saving $4.92 per year, equivalent to $45 today. It proved you could make restaurant-quality stock from garbage bones, that you knew gelatin extraction when extraction meant roasting then boiling bones until they crumbled into powder, when every dinner meant tomorrow's stock ingredient, when poverty engineering meant understanding bones had more value in stock than in garbage, that throwing away bones was throwing away the foundation of next month's soup. Meat bone stock disappeared when better than bouillon became standard, and saving bones became too much work instead of free stock, when freezer space became too valuable for bread bags full of bones. The hack that once proved bone economics became something restaurants charge $4 per cup for, and women who collected bones in bread bags stayed silent about the freezer collection, pretending they never saved garbage bones when garbage bones made stock that stores charged money for. Your grandmother fried leftover rice for next meal every time she cooked rice in 1975. Day-old rice from the Tupperware container she fried in bacon grease with 1 beaten egg, soy sauce from the Kikkoman bottle, and frozen peas, making fried rice instead of throwing away rice and cooking fresh, eliminating 1 meal's worth of rice expense at $0.23 per cup uncooked. The fried rice saved $0.92 per month, 4 rice meals, saving $11.04 per year, equivalent to $50 today. It proved you could transform leftovers into meals, that you knew rice chemistry when chemistry meant day-old rice fried better than fresh rice, when Tuesday's rice became Wednesday's fried rice, when poverty engineering meant understanding leftover rice wasn't garbage, but tomorrow's main dish waiting to be transformed through high heat and strategic ingredient addition. Your grandmother saved pasta water for sauce thinning every time she cooked spaghetti in 1973. 1 cup starchy pasta water she scooped from the pot before draining, saved in a Pyrex measuring cup, used to thin her spaghetti sauce instead of adding plain water or throwing away and using milk, because pasta water was free and made sauce silky without costing $0.89 for half and half. The pasta water saved $3.56 per month, 4 spaghetti dinners, saving $42.72 per year, equivalent to $270 today. It proved you could improve sauce with wastewater, that you knew starch emulsification when emulsification meant pasta water-bound sauce to noodles better than plain water, when Wednesday's spaghetti meant Wednesday's free sauce improver, when poverty engineering meant understanding every cooking liquid had value, that draining pasta water down the sink was draining money down the sink. Your grandmother rendered beef fat for cooking every time she trimmed meat in 1958. Beef fat she cut off pot roast before cooking, cubed small, cooked low and slow in the cast-iron skillet until liquid, strained into a ball jar, cooled and used for frying instead of buying. Crisco shortening for $0.78 per can. The rendered beef fat saved $3.12 per month, 4 cans, saving $37.44 per year. equivalent to $390 today. Your grandmother reused coffee grounds once more every morning in 1965. Used coffee grounds from Monday's percolator she saved in a jar in the refrigerator. Mixed half and half with fresh grounds Tuesday morning, making coffee that was 75% strength, but saved half the coffee expense at 0.89 per pound. The reused coffee grounds saved 0.45 per week, saving $23.40 per year, equivalent to $230 today. It proved you could stretch coffee, that you knew extraction rates when rates meant grounds had 2 brews in them, when Monday's grounds meant Tuesday's half the grounds needed, when poverty engineering meant understanding coffee grounds weren't garbage after one use, but raw material for second brewing. Your grandmother saved vegetable peelings for stock pot after every dinner in 1970. Carrot peels, potato skins, celery leaves, onion skins all collected in a Tupperware bowl throughout the day, added to the stock pot simmering on the back burner, making continuous stock instead of throwing away peelings and buying stock at the store. The vegetable peeling stock saved $3.68 per month, 16 cups, saving $44.16 per year, equivalent to $300 today. It proved you could make free stock continuously, that you knew Perpetual stock when Perpetual meant adding peelings daily and removing stock weekly, when every vegetable had 2 parts, the part you ate and the part that flavored stock, when poverty engineering meant understanding peelings weren't garbage, but flavoring agents worth 0.23 per cup if you saved them instead of throwing them away. Vegetable peeling stock disappeared when people threw away vegetable scraps and bought boxed stock, when peeling stock became something people wrinkle their noses at. The hack that once proved continuous stock economics became forgotten, and women who kept stock pots simmering for 40 years stayed silent about adding peelings daily, pretending they never made stock from garbage when garbage peel stock was chemically identical to store-bought stock, but free. Your grandmother cooked ham bone 3 times after every baked ham in 1963. First time with beans on Monday, making ham and beans. Second time with split peas on Wednesday, making split pea soup. Third time with cabbage on Friday, making cabbage soup. 1 2:45 ham bone, making 3 separate meals before she threw it away. The ham bone, 3 meals, saved $4.90. 2 meals worth of meat, cooking 1 bone 3 times per ham, saving $19.60 per year, 4 hams, equivalent to $200 today. It proved you could extract 3 meals from 1 bone, that you knew protein extraction when extraction meant boiling bones until they stopped giving flavor, when Sunday's ham bone meant Monday, Wednesday, Friday's meals, when poverty engineering meant understanding bones had value through 3 boilings, not just 1, that throwing away a bone after 1 use was throwing away 2 more meals. Ham bone 3 uses disappeared when people threw away ham bones after 1 soup and bought ham at the store for the next meal, when 3 uses became too much instead of standard. The hack that once proved bone economics became something people don't know is possible. These 5 food-saving hacks required saving pasta water, rendering beef fat, and boiling ham bones 3 times, waste elimination engineering disguised as cooking when waste elimination meant understanding every part of food had extractable value. Each hack demanded accepting that first use wasn't final use, proving you could multiply food value through strategic reprocessing when reprocessing was the difference between 3 meals and 1 meal from the same ingredient. But the next 5 food-saving hacks required even more aggressive waste elimination, more extreme reprocessing that made garbage into edible meals. Your grandmother mixed bacon fat into beans every time she cooked dried beans in 1968, 2 tablespoons bacon grease from the coffee can. She stirred into pinto beans while they simmered. making them taste like ham beans without buying 1.23 ham hock, making plain beans taste expensive for free. The bacon fat in beans saved 1.23 per pot of beans, cooking beans twice per month, saving $29.52 per year, equivalent to $270 today. It proved you could fake meat flavor, that you knew fat equals flavor, when flavor meant bacon grease made beans taste like they cooked with meat, when Thursday's beans meant Thursday's meat-flavored beans without meat, when poverty engineering meant understanding flavor came from fat more than meat, that bacon grease was free ham hock if you saved it instead of throwing it away. Bacon fat in beans disappeared when people threw away bacon grease and bought ham hocks for beans, when bacon fat became unhealthy instead of flavor source. The hack that once proved flavor economics became something people don't remember, and women who kept bacon grease coffee cans for 40 years stayed silent about stirring grease into beans, pretending they always bought ham hocks, when ham hocks cost $1.03 and bacon grease was free. Your grandmother boiled chicken feet for gelatin broth every time the butcher gave her free chicken feet in 1955. 10 chicken feet she boiled with water and vegetables for 4 hours, making rich gelatin broth that gelled when cold, superior to regular chicken broth, free because butchers threw away chicken feet and gave them to customers who asked. The chicken feet broth was completely free. Butchers gave them away, making 12 cups per batch, equivalent to $2.76 in store-bought broth, making broth monthly, saving $33.12 per year, equivalent to $370 today. It proved you could get free protein, that you knew collagen extraction when extraction meant boiling feet until they dissolved, when asking the butcher meant free ingredients, when poverty engineering meant understanding butchers threw away valuable parts. You could get free by asking that chicken feet made better broth than chicken bones, because feet were pure collagen worth money if you knew to ask for them. Chicken feet broth disappeared when butchers stopped giving away feet, and people called feet disgusting instead of valuable when asking for chicken feet became embarrassing. The hack that once proved asking economics became something people won't do, and women who boiled chicken feet every month for 30 years stayed silent about asking butchers, pretending they never ate foot broth, when foot broth was free superior quality stock you got by not being too proud to ask. Your grandmother soaked stale bread for bread pudding every Saturday in 1972. Week-old white bread she tore into pieces, soaked in milk, eggs, and sugar mixture, baked at 350 degrees for 45 minutes, making dessert from garbage bread instead of throwing away bread and buying Little Debbie snack cakes for $0.79 per box. The bread pudding saved $3.16 per month, 4 boxes, saving $37.92 per year, equivalent to $240 today. It proved you could make dessert from garbage, that you knew bread transformation when transformation meant stale bread became dessert through milk soaking, when Saturday's stale bread meant Saturday's free dessert, when poverty engineering meant understanding bread had value until it molded, not until it went stale, that throwing away stale bread was throwing away free dessert ingredients worth $0.79 at the store. Stale bread pudding disappeared when people threw away stale bread and bought packaged desserts, when bread pudding became restaurant dessert instead of garbage transformation. The hack that once proved bread dessert economics became something fancy restaurants charge $7 for, and women who made bread pudding every Saturday from stale bread stayed silent about the real ingredient, pretending they made it because they liked bread pudding when they made it because stale bread was free and Little Debbie cost $0.79. Your grandmother made leftover mashed potatoes into pancakes every Monday morning in 1966. Sunday's leftover mashed potatoes she mixed with 1 egg and 2 tablespoons flour, shaped into patties, fried in bacon grease until brown, serving for breakfast instead of throwing away potatoes and cooking fresh breakfast, eliminating 1 breakfast's worth of ingredients at $0.67. The potato pancakes saved $2.68 per month, 4 Monday breakfasts, saving $32.16 per year, equivalent to $310 today. It proved you could transform leftovers into breakfast, that you knew starch binding when binding meant egg held potatoes together into pancakes, when Sunday's potatoes meant Monday's breakfast, when poverty engineering meant understanding leftover potatoes weren't garbage, but tomorrow's breakfast waiting to be shaped and fried, that throwing away mashed potatoes was throwing away free pancakes worth 0.67 in breakfast ingredients. Leftover mashed potato pancakes disappeared when people threw away leftover potatoes. Your grandmother boiled apple cores for jelly after every apple pie in 1960. 12 apple cores and peelings she saved in a bowl, boiled with water and sugar for 30 minutes, strained and cooked to jelly stage, making 2 jars of apple jelly from garbage instead of buying Smucker's jelly for 0.56 per jar. The apple core jelly saved $1.12 per batch, making jelly 4 times per year, saving $4.48 per year, equivalent to $45 today. It proved you could make jelly from garbage, that you knew pectin extraction when extraction meant cores had enough pectin for jelly, when Saturday's apple pie meant Saturday's free jelly making, when poverty engineering meant understanding apples had 2 products, the pie and the jelly, that throwing away cores was throwing away 2 jars of jelly worth $1.12 at the store. Apple core jelly disappeared when people threw away apple cores and bought jelly at the store, when core jelly became something people don't know is possible. The hack that once proved apple economics became forgotten, and women who boiled apple cores for 60 years stayed silent about the core-saving bowl, pretending they never made jelly from garbage when garbage core jelly was chemically identical to store jelly, but free because cores were free. These 5 food-saving hacks required mixing bacon fat into beans, boiling chicken feet for broth, and making jelly from apple cores. Extreme waste elimination disguised as cooking, when extreme waste elimination meant understanding even garbage had extractable value. Each hack demanded accepting ingredients other people threw away, proving you could make meals from parts stores gave away free when free parts were the difference between beans that tasted like ham and beans that tasted like poverty. But the final 5 food-saving hacks required the ultimate waste elimination, making multiple meals from single ingredients through complete extraction. Your grandmother crumbled cornbread for dressing stretcher every Thanksgiving in 1965, leftover cornbread. From Monday, she dried and crumbled, mixed half and half with white breadcrumbs in turkey dressing, stretching 8 cups of breadcrumbs from 4 cups white bread, plus 4 cups cornbread, making the 0.89 bag of Pepperidge Farm stuffing feed 12 people instead of 6. The cornbread dressing stretcher saved 0.89 per holiday, stretching 3 holidays per year, saving $2.67 per year, equivalent to $26 today. It proved you could stretch purchased ingredients, that you knew bread mixing when mixing meant cornbread extended expensive stuffing, when Thanksgiving meant strategic bread combination, when poverty engineering meant understanding expensive ingredients stretched through free ingredient addition, that throwing away cornbread was throwing away free dressing stretcher worth half the dressing cost. Cornbread dressing stretcher disappeared when people threw away leftover cornbread and bought extra stuffing bags. Your grandmother added oatmeal to meatloaf every Monday in 1970, 1/2 cup Quaker oats. She mixed with 1 pound ground beef, 1 egg, and 1 can tomato soup, making the pound of beef feed 6 people instead of 4, saving $0.45, half pound of meat, per meatloaf. The oatmeal meatloaf stretcher saved $1.80 per month, 4 meatloafs, saving $21.60 per year, equivalent to $150 today. It proved you could stretch meat with grain, that you knew binder ratios when ratios meant oatmeal, absorbed moisture and stretched volume, when Monday meant meatloaf that served 6, not 4, when poverty engineering meant understanding meat wasn't the only protein, that oatmeal had protein and volume that made 1 pound of hamburger feed 6 people when 6 people couldn't eat with only 4 servings. Oatmeal in meatloaf disappeared when recipes called oatmeal filler and breadcrumbs became standard, when stretching became insult instead of technique. Your grandmother reused pickle juice for pickling eggs every time she finished a jar of pickles in 1958. Empty pickle juice from the Vlasic jar she poured into a ball jar, added 12 hard-boiled eggs, refrigerated for 3 days, making pickled eggs instead of throwing away juice and eating plain hard-boiled eggs, transforming free juice into flavoring worth $1.23 per jar of pickled eggs at the store. The reused pickle juice saved $1.23 per jar, reusing juice monthly, saving $14.76 per year, equivalent to $160 today. It proved you could reuse flavoring liquid, that you knew acid preservation when preservation meant pickle juice, pickled eggs, same as cucumbers, when Saturday's empty pickle jar meant Saturday's pickled egg making, when poverty engineering meant understanding pickle juice had value after pickles, that throwing away pickle juice was throwing away free egg flavoring worth $1.23 at the deli. Your grandmother boiled turkey carcass 4 days after Thanksgiving in 1967. Friday boiled with vegetables for turkey soup. Saturday boiled again for turkey noodle soup. Sunday boiled 3rd time for turkey rice soup. Monday boiled 4th time, making final week broth for gravy. One $4.89 turkey carcass, making 4 separate soup meals plus gravy. The turkey carcass 4 days saved $9.78, 3 extra meals. Boiling 1 carcass per year, saving equivalent to $95 today. It proved you could extract 4 uses from 1 bone, that you knew extraction progression when progression meant fresh soup to weak broth, when Friday's turkey meant Monday's gravy base, when poverty engineering meant understanding bones gave flavor through 4 boilings, not just 1, that throwing away a carcass after 1 soup was throwing away 3 more meals worth $9.78 in ingredients. Turkey carcass. 4 days disappeared when people threw away carcasses after 1 soup and bought turkey at the store for the next meal, when 4 days became too much instead of complete extraction. The hack that once proved ultimate bone economics became something people call excessive. Your grandmother saved lard from every roast she cooked from 1950 to 1975. Pork roast drippings she poured into a coffee can, kept in the refrigerator, accumulated 3 pounds per month, used for pie crusts, biscuits, and frying instead of buying Crisco, shortening at 0.89 per pound. The saved lard eliminated $2.67 per month in shortening costs, saving $32.04 per year, equivalent to $340 today. It proved you could make free baking fat, that you knew fat collection when collection meant every roast produced next week's pie crust fat, when Sunday's pork roast meant Wednesday's biscuit fat, when poverty engineering meant understanding meat produced 2 products, the meat you ate and the fat you cooked with, that throwing away drippings was throwing away 3 pounds of Crisco per month worth $2.67. Saved lard disappeared when health warnings called lard unhealthy and Crisco became standard, when saving lard became disgusting instead of economical. The hack that once proved ultimate fat economics became something people shame, and women who saved lard for 50 years stayed silent about the refrigerator coffee can, pretending they never cooked with pork fat when pork fat made better pie crust than Crisco and cost nothing because roasts produced it for free.